One of the biggest advantages I saw with driving and having a dog in the car that, there were a lot of areas that we were crossing where we would get warned. And I still had that kind of comfort that even if I stop and get off, Zion's going to take care of everything. And that sense of security,
I absolutely agree. It's not easy to look after a disabled dog, an unwell dog, or a difficult dog.
Absolutely.
But I do believe it's not impossible.
Absolutely.
As long as we are willing to train ourselves, educate ourselves, and just have a routine, it is possible.
Hi, Meher.
Hi, Adnaan.
Welcome to K9 Talks.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting us in your wonderful place, as always. And thank you for giving us the time. So, how I usually do this is we're going to go trace it all the way back to your earliest possible memory.
Okay.
Around animals, around pets, or any kind of animals, so I can kind of understand where it stems from, and if possible, other family members as well, their influence and their love or hate towards animals. So you're gonna start from there, but before that, I want to ask my most favorite question: why do you love dogs?
I think not only dogs, but all animals, their ability to love unconditionally, and their ability to forgive, and their ability to just be present in that moment. It is amazing. So for me, that is something that I hope to learn from them, but also something that has kept me very grounded in my emotion for them.
Right, that's definitely one thing that I also like. Besides that unconditional love, the other thing that I feel that kind of inspires me, especially from dogs, it's my focus subject of expertise, is also living in the moment.
Yeah.
That no matter what would have happened, let's say even 5 minutes ago or for the rest of their life,
Yeah.
wherever they are is kind of their ultimate world, basically.
Correct.
So yeah, thanks for answering that. I make sure I ask before I start off. So let's start from the very beginning. Your first possible memory you gained consciousness, whatever you can remember from the earliest around animals and your life with them, and we'll build up from there.
So my first interaction with a dog was my grandfather's pointer. And I was really young, but I still remember that dog and how, as a little toddler, how safe I felt with the dog. So even if I was out in the garden, as long as I was with the dog, I was okay, irrelevant of whether there were adults with me or not. And then from there, of course, my parents tell me that when I was, I think, 2.
And this was in Delhi, the pointer?
No, this was in Kashmir.
Okay.
So my mother is from Kashmir.
Okay.
And my childhood was, my summers would be spent there with my grandparents.
Okay. So half of your upbringing mostly is
Yes.
in Kashmir. Okay.
And then, of course, my parents tell me that they found me as a 2-year-old stuck to a mule's leg because I wanted to pet it.
And mules are known to be reactive and they kick
Yes,
back.
no one kicked me. They were kind. I was another mule. I was just holding on to the tail. So I think as a kid, there was some fascination there. But I was also very lucky that I had parents that absolutely loved animals, and that taught me a lot of kindness towards them. And they were very particular in teaching me how to respect those animals. So it wasn't just that, oh, you're a child, let's get you a plate thing.
Right.
But it was that you can touch, but if you do this, you know how you feel.
Also respect the
Yes.
species. and
So
all.
learning that, my mother taught me to love animals unconditionally. I mean, when I was a baby, right from a baby goat being rescued to dogs and cats and anything that we would have.
So your mom has had a massive influence.
Massive role. My mother and my father,
And uncle as well.
who taught me respect.
Right.
Who taught me that yes, it's good to go out there to do your bit, but always respect that.
Don't go overboard.
Yes, always be respectful, be gentle, be kind.
Right.
So I was lucky to grow up in a home where my parents taught me about compassion and about kindness, but yet kept me very grounded in you don't own them,
Right.
they're a part of our lives. So that stayed with me. And then, of course, as I grew up, I went to a boarding school. There, the interaction lessened.
And where was this?
I went to Sanar,
Okay.
a very beautiful school. It's almost like the Indian Hogwarts,
Okay.
but it's on top of this hill and absolutely beautiful.
Which city is this in?
This is in Himachal,
Himachal.
near Kasauli.
Okay.
Yeah. So there we didn't have much interaction with animals.
Like random strays here or there.
Yeah,
Birds and
strays,
squirrels.
and though we there used to be this jhund of monkeys there that had our fault because we were scared of them. So we would go around running, and they
they'd
would
chase
just
you guys.
yes.
Because it was kids. So
Yeah, but apart from that, again, it was not a place where cruelty was, encouraged. It was, again, it kept us grounded. There was a lot of, there was no cruelty towards animals ever in a situation like that. And then, of course, from there, I went to America to study for my 2 years of high school. There, I didn't have any pets.
Okay. No interaction with dogs as such.
Because our landlord did not allow pets. But me and my cousin did get ourselves 2 hermit crabs.
Oh, wow.
And they were called Stubby and Ganja. Stubby was missing a claw.
Oh, that's why. No wonder the name.
Yeah. And Ganja's house was a green shell.
Oh, wow. So, yeah. Apt.
Yes. But of course, we would look after our landlord's dog or interact
What
with
do you
our
feed a
cats.
crab? Like, how do you take care of it?
Little insects.
So, you cultivate them or you buy them?
No, you just buy them there.
Live insects.
Yeah, live. You go to Petco and they also have fish food.
Okay.
And, so it's quite easy to keep these exotic things
And they're
there.
always submerged in water?
No.
Any kind of like moisture control
Yeah,
and
so
stuff?
it's like a water and a sandy area.
Okay.
So
Amphibious, I don't know what it's called.
yes.
Amphibious, like
So
how you'd have a
sort
frog
of a
or a
terrarium,
tortoise.
but not
Fair enough.
an aquarium. So we had them. Then we had fish. They were not
Together with the crabs?
No, separately. There was not much communication there.
Yeah, I mean,
But that's all I could kind of do there. Then I came back for college. And that's when I again got back into my life with animals. So ever since I was a kid, anytime I saw an injured dog or any animal, I was lucky enough to have my parents allow me to help it.
assist you with it.
Yes, whether it was bring it home, let it get okay, then release. But yes, I was lucky to be able to do that. That also kind of, and my mother's a doctor.
Right.
So she always, she taught me to not be scared of these medical emergencies. So if I ever come across something like that, I am okay in it.
But that's something vital because that's a skill set I don't know anyone else to have, out of everyone that I know, because normally the first thing we want to do is call for help, call for ambulance, call for rescue. Now with internet, we try to Google or like take YouTube's assistance, but having that skill set with you at all times is like a superpower right now, especially in remote areas, like what if you have a flat tire and an injured animal, no veterinarian in sight, no ambulance. So when was the first time that you could manually like administer like an injection or like suture an open wound without like with your mom's, let's say, oversight, but not like overlooking it, but not necessarily helping you at all, like when you could personally do it?
I think when I came back, when I was in college.
Okay.
By then I must have
17,
been
18, 19.
And that's when my mom was comfortable with me being able to handle a situation. And because there was no fear of blood or gore, right? And because there was already this learning I had of being present, panic comes from what we have perceived in the future to be.
Of course.
Right? But because I was able to be present,
Right.
I would not panic. Not that I didn't feel scared,
Right.
right? But I was able to keep my calm and do what is needed to be done without focusing so much on the आगे क्या होगा कैसे होगा.
Correct.
So again, all credit to my mother for that.
So is she, just for clarification, because we have like people watching, we know each other for a long time, so
Yeah.
we might miss out on final details. So is your mom a veterinarian or like
No, she's actually a gynecologist, a surgeon.
okay. And practiced all her life,
Yes,
like
she
in Delhi
practiced
or
Jammu.
Jammu Kashmir?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now she's retired, and she lives here in Delhi and between Delhi and Srinagar. So again, because of her, I was able to.
Yeah, I mean, I know her personally, but I just wanted to add more context for people watching. But also, like now that we have that because she was a gynecologist, there was a
Yes.
lot of like experience in certain things that do get passed on. It
Yes.
wasn't just like a consulting position
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah.
And then still, I would say that this internalized knack of rescuing, she used her skill set and transferred it.
Yes.
And you having no medical background can now like let's say surgically like rescue
Yes.
an animal
Yes.
to the highest possible extent. So she's kind of made you a surgeon of the animals around. Not that you're conducting any surgeries or anything, but yeah, just
But
so
at
that's
least
great
in
to
that,
know. Like
yeah, in that moment, I can make sure I can do my best.
a broken bone can have a like
Yes.
a still till the point, or
Correct.
basic stitches and all of
Correct.
that. It's a skill set that like honestly, if we could integrate it as early as kindergarten, right? Even the basic rescue protocols that okay, now you have an injured animal.
Yeah.
What could you do for it to survive till
Correct.
some professional help comes in?
Yes.
And assuming for a country as overpopulated as ours, just assume that there is no help.
Correct.
You won't
I
get it.
absolutely
Like, an extreme like bleeding situation, and with the traffic,
Yes.
like most of the
Yes.
human life is compromised
Yeah.
because of traffic, ambulances on the road. So if we could learn certain things that could like revive them or save them to a certain stage. So yeah, we could start a institution under you at some point, but at least till the time you have that skill, I feel safe that at least I can call you and suddenly get a dog up to you if I don't bring it anywhere.
Absolutely.
So and then you've always had pet dogs since
Yes.
the very beginning, the pointer,
Yes.
and then what was your next dog after
So
that?
I remember the pointer, but that was my grandparents' dog.
Okay.
My first dog was an Apso
Okay.
called Tara. Then
Female.
female. And she was the love of my life. Everything revolved around Tara for me. Then once Tara came, my parents got a Doberman,
Okay.
Zola. Zola came to us from Kalhan's father.
Okay.
Yeah. So then after Zola, we got a Dalmatian, Leo.
This is all in Jammu.
Yes. And then from there started the menagerie. After that there was Raja,
There's no
big,
stopping. Wow.
many. Oh, don't ask. It just continued. But it was. So I've always had Apsos. And then we've had a lot of Gaddis because my parents had their home in Manali.
It's been colder areas a lot. Right?
So all the dogs were just coming home. Then we had a German Shepherd. That was in Delhi. That was Pasha was here. Then we had Labs, Choti. Then we had Tashi, who was a stray and who I was just back from school for vacation, and the car in front of me ran over her. She was a small puppy. So I picked her up and got her home. And she lived her life with us.
Wow.
And then there was Jackie. Jackie was a mix between a Rottweiler and a Doberman.
Okay.
He was absolutely stunning.
Massive.
Massive dog, but very gentle, very loving.
A bit like Tank now.
Yes, a bit like Tank, but much bigger and bulkier.
Okay.
Like a mastiff head.
Okay.
So big. Then, of course, Hope, our Neapolitan Mastiff,
I
who
know
was
about her.
the gentlest, drooliest dog we've had. And then lots more after that. But then, my sole dog was my Great Dane.
Right.
Roxy.
Who I've met
You've met.
quite a lot of times, yeah. All of
So,
us loved her.
yeah. So Roxy came into our life. Roxy was my and my husband Chan's first dog together.
Together. Okay.
So a few months after we got married, we went and got Roxy. We were actually going to get a beagle.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, till I don't know how that became a Great Dane, but it did.
At that age, they kind of look similar also.
I
Beagle
don't
and
know what
Great
to
Dane
say.
puppy.
All I can say is, when I saw that gangly little thing, I was like, oh my god, I
This
want
is
that.
what I want.
But this was also my pre-Friendicoes days.
Right.
So Roxy came. Then after Roxy, we got our little Coco Berry, who is an Apso. But as you know, Coco has a lot of health issues. She's epileptic and she has an enlarged heart and she has a thyroid issue and she has arthritis.
Yeah.
She's a tiny little thing, but so with Coco, we again,
Fighting a lot of battles every day. So.
which you know of. I mean, I've reached out to you so many times for help. But yes, there was Coco, Roxy, and now we are currently at 12 dogs.
Wow. So in your entire lifetime, if you had to put a count of how many dogs as a ballpark figure you've had up until now, all the way from when you had your very first dog, like over 100 easily.
Yeah.
And that's just you
everyone.
and your immediate family, you, mom, dad.
Just me, mom, dad.
Not
that's it.
cousins,
No,
not
no,
extended,
no,
not grand.
No, I don't even think the others would want to get into it. They are,
Okay, that's the
"Oh, mere
maximum
through ho
passion
gaya."
is just that.
हाँ.
Okay, they don't even.
And
But
then
when you were having 100 dogs, probably had like 1 or 2 in total.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Wow, that's quite a fun life to have that many. And what about other animals? I know we're gonna go through, have a walkthrough around the farm and introduce everyone to all the different flora and fauna that you have cultivated here. But parallelly, because you had a knack of so many species, goats and mules you mentioned, and in fact, my first childhood memory is not of a dog or a cat. I always keep telling my wife about that as well. That I remember just having milk from a bottle and just lying down on a sofa, and our apartment was on the first floor. So we had a donkey crossing the street, and you could hear it. Must be carrying something because they used to back in the day, and this is 3 decades ago. And I just stopped drinking milk and I tell my mom, 1 second, mujhe gada dekhna hai. And I go to the balcony, just stare at it passing by. And I come back and I continue drink. And this is when I first learned to start speaking and everything. So I know my knack of being fascinated by any kind of moving creature that's not a person was there for sure. There was always a higher bar of consideration for anything that's living and breathing.
Right.
That's different from a person. That much I knew for a fact. And then eventually it shaped up to animals and whatnot. So what about other animals that you've had your experience with? Pre-Friendicoes, let's say. Then Friendicoes.
We have had a baby goat.
Okay, wow.
That we rescued.
And how long do you have it as a family for?
He passed away, I think, within 2 years.
Okay.
But he was rescued with the umbilical cord still there.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't even get that initial,
so
nutrition
you did the
or
hand
whatever.
feeding and everything.
So we always found him to be slightly weaker. But so he was with us. His official name was Billy.
Okay.
His unofficial name was Lunch.
Why?
Well, we always told him if he didn't behave, he would be Lunch someday.
And he wouldn't behave, so you'd keep calling him Lunch.
Yes, so we Lunch, and he used to do this cutest hop that would just be jumping in the air, clicking his feet. I'll show you photos of him. We have that. Then me and Roxy have rescued and looked after a lot of baby pigeons.
Okay.
Roxy used to love baby pigeons and baby ducks. So we would rescue them and look after them, and she would raise them till they were, ready to fly off.
Nudge them and take care of them.
Totally.
Come and alert you and everything.
Everything. I mean, we used to keep them in front of cooking range where the oven was.
Okay.
It was warmer
For the
there.
warmth and cotton and everything.
And Roxy would just sit there the whole night looking at them.
Oh wow.
And then,
Midwifery at
yeah,
its best.
just there. And then by the end of it, she would just sit there like this, and they would be pecking at her
Oh
mouth.
wow.
She would not do anything. In fact, if we ever by mistake caught a mouse, Roxy would sit and stare at that mouse till the mouse was not released.
Oh wow.
So yeah,
Mothering
Roxy
it,
was
all her maternal instinct went into rescue.
always.
Wow.
But so yes, now we have geese.
Yeah.
We have 36 geese.
Oh wow.
We have my mother's had a lot of birds in the past. So she had an aviary when she lived in Jammu.
Okay.
So a lot of birds have been a part of her life. Cats. I used to have a cat called Tequila.
Acha.
And because till I had Tequila, I'd only had dogs. So Tequila was raised like a dog. She would walk on a leash. She traveled all over, road tripped all over with me.
Proper golden retriever life.
She would sleep on the front dash while
And
I
travel
drove.
everywhere.
Everywhere. She had no issues. And I'm talking early 2000s.
Okay.
That time traveling with pets was not
not
that
really a
common,
thing.
right? So, yeah, that and that's how kind of...
So you've moved like around the country quite a bit, especially the north side, and like also have had boarding schools and then family in different places. So which kind of meant that you were on the road quite a lot.
Yes.
Before I come to what new passion that developed by being on the road that much and being in a car that much, that meant that you always had an animal that you were traveling with, basically.
Yes.
So you have like, I don't know how many years and how many kilometers of experience of taking care of one of your pets, like across state lines and highways and stuff like that. So how's that been like? I know you're super pro. I could ask you like, a first aid kit for them and things like that. But like, hasn't it built a kind of a dependency that now you can't make plans without having an animal in the picture? Like you can't fly certain places, it would trouble you.
Yes.
And have things improved like how it was before, let's say 20 years back and now?
So I think as a child also, road trips were a big part of my life.
And animals were always part of it.
So, mom and dad and me, we would be in Jammu.
People would usually leave their pet behind when they make such plans.
But not my parents. We would load up our dogs and us in cars and we would drive wherever we had to go.
Nice.
So that's also where, I guess, again, back to the parents, right? It comes from there. Dogs went everywhere with us.
Okay.
So once I grew up, that was just my normal. And then, of course, I was lucky that I married someone that understood
That requirement,
this. Yes, because before Chan and I got together, Chan had never really had pets.
Okay.
But he's genuinely a very kind, gentle soul. So he adapted to this very easily.
Once that paradigm opened, there was no looking back, basically.
No.
Today, if you'd see, you wouldn't notice like he's like a deep rescuer at heart and like sometimes more immersed in it parentally and as a rescuer and like,
We have a joke that any dog that I rescue now, first he says no and later
and
he's
then
the one.
he's cuddling on his chest and all of that.
And that's why he have to rescuing more.
So how many places, if you can count, have you gone with your dogs on the road in India?
So we have done Ladakh with our dogs.
Multiple times.
Ladakh, we've done Ladakh we've done Pangong, and this time we did Hanle. In fact, Elsa went up all the way to Umlingla.
Yeah, we saw the stories.
Yes. And Tibu rode a bike.
Yeah, that was crazy. Like I was like, I don't know if I'll ever make it that far, but him with the glasses on the chest, it was insane.
And then we've done Chandratal Lake with Roxy and Coco. We've done Goa with all my little ones.
All the way from here.
All the way from Delhi.
So about a good like 30 hours.
Yeah.
And you had a pit stop somewhere driving to Goa?
Stopped, yes, a couple of nights, because with them, the one thing that I've learned about these road trips is we are never in a rush to reach.
Right.
So it's not the ultimate destination that we focus on.
The joy is actually the journey, basically.
So if we feel they need to stretch their legs, we will stop 10 times. If we feel they need to eat something, we will stop. So the focus is more on everyone staying engaged and comfort. Otherwise, to have, I think, how many did we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 6 dogs in a car with 4 humans. that can be a tough one.
Yeah, can be quite a handful. If you're like on a timer and you have to get
Yes,
somewhere,
yes.
why would you be that unless you're shifting places or you need to
Exactly.
So yeah, that's been tight. We also did we've only done it once. We did the entire country, 7 different
Yeah.
places,
Yeah.
about 20 odd days. Some places were a timer because it was a hybrid of work and
Right,
vacation. But that was the first time I could be brave enough to drive all the way down to Bangalore and
Right,
back
right.
without worrying that, oh my God, we're kind of helpless and
Yeah,
all of that. So there are a lot of binding factors for city people for them to step out of their comfort zone to even take their dog in the car for a 2-hour drive, Agra or Jaipur, beyond that. But you've done months out basically.
Yeah.
So, and now Charan, you have started that overlanding culture. I mean, you've
Correct.
been doing it for a while, but now with you have a specific machine designed for doing that as well.
Yes.
So we know how deeply engrossed you are in that. So did your passion for driving come because you were driving a lot, or did it parallelly come in because you had friends who were into that, who were also dog lovers? So give us a little bit of history.
For me, I think my passion for driving came from my dad.
Okay.
He's an amazing driver, and even as a little kid, he taught me. So one of the first things he taught me was anticipation. And I would sit next to him, and he taught me to anticipate. So when you drive now I'm just so used to it. It's so much just a part of my
kind of drive blindfolded, basically.
So it came from dad. Road tripping came from dad.
Right.
The way he made it so much fun. It was all about food pit stops, and it was all about stopping somewhere with the dogs, and each time was an adventure.
Right.
And even when Chan and I have also now road tripped a lot. Back in the day when Chan was still in the corporate world, he would not be able to get out as much. But my parents lived in Manali those days. And I was, because I was doing my own thing, I could take off. So he couldn't always drive up with me. And I had to drive up.
So you did your 16 hours in 11 hours,
yes,
basically.
So I would take Roxy and Coco.
Always a dog.
Yes,
along.
in my Baleno. And I would just go off. And the most amazing thing for me was that I could stop at any dhaba, any hour of the night.
Exactly.
Amongst, I don't know how many whatever. People. And no one would even look in my direction.
Right.
I have felt the most safe when it has been me and my dogs.
Absolutely.
And that for me is such an amazing feeling. Even on the road, as long as I have my dogs with me.
Absolutely. One of the biggest advantages I saw with driving and having a dog in the car, that, there were a lot of areas that we were crossing where we would get warned that if you cross this area, even if your tire, if you burst a tire or you have cloudy windshields or someone tries to stop you, just keep driving past. And I still had that kind of comfort that even if I stop and get off, Zion's going to take care of everything. And that sense of security, we didn't really do anything risky stopping at any odd hours or anything, but we did, however, in Nagpur at 2:45 a.m. Burst a tire, and we could comfortably change that at that hour just by Zion hovering around the car and things like that. So, but you, Chan, and you have kind of upped that passion of driving and road tripping into rallying and off-roading and tuning your car up and stuff like that.
So that is more Chan's thing. Okay. He has a passion for building everything from scratch, as you know.
Correct.
But for me, today, it is about just my dogs and me. Nothing else really matters. My focus, we just went to Ladakh recently. And for me, the experience of being able to have Elsa, who we recently adopted at that point, and Tibu with me.
So how long after you adopting her did you decide to do
we
this trip?
We had her just a month and I decided to take her
travel. And what all did you pack just so that
people
for
Elsa, we were very we have a set kit for our first aid kit, which is human dog friendly.
Correct.
But because we do very remote locations,
your specialized first aid kit that you have.
So I mean, we have everything from dealing with any kind of injury,
Even heart, liver, kidney,
anything
revival,
to
and all of
get
that.
to a emergency spot.
Right. Very
So
detailed first aid kit,
yes,
not a
thanks.
basic one.
Yes, thanks to my mother. So with dogs, it's important to have that.
Right.
Because I may even find a human doctor in a remote village, I'm unlikely to find a vet.
Correct.
So having that little setup is always there. With Elsa, we didn't really need to carry anything warm for her to wear because
Yeah,
she's
husky.
double coated, right? So she was okay.
Right.
Tibu, we did carry we carried a jacket and then like a armored vest
Okay.
harness.
For the bike.
Yes. So that even if there's an incident, he's fine.
And a helmet and reflective goggles and flying hair. Saw
I
that.
wish. So we couldn't find a helmet and reflective goggles for him. So I went to Decathlon and I bought children's swimming goggles. And
Okay.
I used those.
And what about the headgear?
I actually have a hoodie for him.
Okay.
So I just used the hoodie as a head.
Okay, that was the hoodie.
That's his hoodie. And then
He's
America,
looking gangster in
doesn't
that, like
he?
attire.
Yeah, my friend who was riding the bike, well, he was really excited till Tibu was not feeling very friendly towards the ladies. So that kind of...
Oh, he would start growling and stuff.
I think
And they would want to pet him
they
and
would,
reach
because he
him
looked
and
so
everything.
cool riding his bike.
No, for an introvert like me, it's like a hermit's best
I
friend
know.
to attach him to my body, and nobody would
Yeah.
come say hi.
Yeah,
They try
yeah,
to
yeah.
extend their arm and he'd snap
That's
them
it,
basically.
But yeah, so that few things that we carried was dehydrated food, a mat for them, like a cushioned mat which kind of rolls up, and 2 fleeces, thin fleeces, which is more because so all the dogs in our house they have a habit, you have to cover their eyes for them to sleep. Unless you do that, they're not sleeping.
Okay, they'll stay up through the night.
Yes, so you have to tuck them in. That is my fault, I accept.
No, but like it's also because while you're telling me all this, the things that you were packing were also, just to specify,
Yeah.
were because you guys were camping in the middle of nowhere and
Yes.
not really like
Yes.
taking any hotels or
Yes.
Airbnbs,
Yes.
but
Yes.
also like overlanding and
Yes.
pitching tents in
Yes.
random
Yes.
places.
So before we left
s-
Adnaan, we did not think we would actually get accommodation with Elsa.
Okay.
Because people have a tendency to get scared of bigger dogs. So we actually were ready to camp the entire way.
Okay.
But
Till about your home.
yes, but we were very lucky that in Leh, in Pangong and Hanle, we found places that loved dogs.
Right.
And they were so amazing with them that we actually in these 3 places did not need to camp. We were okay. We camped one day when initially we had to camp because we were in very remote places where, dogs have a different status in the whole hierarchy of how things are. So we camped. We were okay. Elsa and Tibu were absolutely fine. This was Elsa's first experience of camping.
Okay.
I don't know what.
And you don't know her history.
No, but she was great. She stayed by our side, so even without a
Inside the
leash-
tent?
inside
Or
the tent also, even outside.
she'll have her out.
So we would leave her off leash. She would not wander off. So that was good.
Yes.
We were surrounded by either jackals or were they like
Wolves.
coyotes or foxes? I don't know what they were, but 3.
Okay.
So one in front, one on one side, one on one side.
And you could see silhouettes from a distance.
Their eyes were sparkling, right?
Oh, you could see those eyes.
But then
Yellowish kind.
yes, so when we put the torch, they didn't run.
They stare
They
at it.
stayed and they stared. We did have food, right?
Do they have wolves over there also?
Not wolves. They either have coyotes or
Hyenas.
they have not hyenas. They have
Okay.
either coyotes,
Jackals.
jackals or what, and
Siberian fox, no. Siberian fox is smaller though.
yeah, and they were making a clucking sound.
Okay.
I actually thought there were chickens in the woods.
Till you
And
saw what it was.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I must not leave Elsa. Not that she... It was only later we saw. But as we had our fire lit, we had our food. They did not come closer. Neither did we create any ruckus. At night, we removed the food. Food was locked in the car. Then that's when we went. Of course, we created a barrier around our tent, which was just like bags or, things like that. The dogs were inside. We were fine. Nothing happened. It's only the next morning when we were sitting and having our breakfast that a lady came by the stream and she was washing her car. So we're like, oh, hello, whatever. And she's like, yeah, and we offered our breakfast. And she says, so, did you see the brown bear last night? I was like, what?
There was a brown bear as well.
Apparently, there's a brown bear in the area.
And you can see, like you can pop out of the tent.
He attacks.
Oh wow. Yeah, they don't spare anyone.
Yes. And Tibu would have been a hot dog for him.
Easily, even people. I think he could eat
Yes.
an entire person if he's hungry.
Exactly.
So,
And
yeah,
we
that's
were
scary.
just like, what? Within 10 minutes, I was like, okay,
Pack
you know
up.
what? Let's start packing. Otherwise, I was in that thing of lovely
We'll
spot.
stay
there's
another
a
couple of
stream,
days and
Let's just
everything.
chill for some time. I was like, no. We should move on. But yeah, after that, we saw the Kyang, the Tibetan wild asses. We came across those. We came across marmots. Tibu and Elsa were okay with them.
Nice.
No one misbehaved. I have an unnecessary need of touching every animal
So
I
you went
see.
straight hand.
I touched. I am guilty of this. I got yelled at also, but I still touched. So yes, so this was road tripping with dogs has taught us food, water, sleep, medication.
Safety. Yeah.
That's it. Rest I can handle. फिर तो हो ही
Obviously, then
जाएगा.
it's all on the fly.
Elsa के साथ खाना is not a big deal because she
She
loves
eats
street
anything.
food.
She eats anything out. Yeah. Yeah, she loves
long-
potatoes. That much I know.
Yes. As long as there is a boiled potato, you're
Yeah,
fine.
you own her. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how you can control her.
Yeah. But yeah, we've been very lucky. Touch wood, no weird incidents have happened with us, and also I think the dogs we've traveled with have been so big, right? That people are want
Always
to stay
like 6
away.
feet distance, and
they
they don't want to
wanna come
cuddle
close.
and everything.
Yeah.
These are some of the, you can say, like the fitter dogs, like the more like sturdy ones that you
Yes.
have.
Yes.
But then in my, like now we've been friends like over a decade easily,
Yes.
12-13 years
Yeah.
now. So I know for you to also have a knack, and this now I understand as you describe your like life and influence of both uncle and auntie into it, that you kind of utilized your extra set of skills in repairing an animal that others couldn't. For example, that you had started picking up like the completely like lost cases on the physical and the medical side, who you knew for a fact that nobody is going to like save, nobody is going to rescue. So like you said, you have 12 dogs and you only took 2 of them out.
Yes.
So there's been a lot of dogs in my personal experience with you, and then many that I don't know of as well, that have been like very challenging cases medically, temperamentally now as well, because we've been training together for a few years. So you're taking temperamentally challenging cases now as well. But so when did that start, where you decided that, okay, I'll become like a home or a shelter for like an impossible case which has no hope, and then try to like build it up from there, or at least give them the best life during that phase? Like there must have been a point where you added another layer to your skill set basically. So
I think for me that started with my association with Friendicoes.
okay.
And a lot of it has
But
to
Coco
do...
came before that though.
Coco came before, but when Coco came, I didn't know
She
had
didn't
that.
have any of that.
No.
Okay.
In fact, she came from an acquaintance's
Right. Family.
litter.
Right.
So I had no idea. I also had no idea what I was in for.
Right.
Coco is approaching 15 now.
Okay. And this all started surfacing at 3, probably 1. Okay.
At 1.
So in the first year you had no clue.
Yes. But with Coco, we also learned to not give up.
Right.
Right? Though it's hard to see her epilepsy, and
Obviously,
it has really increased over time.
For
but,
sure.
Now it's okay. We know she's happy.
Now there's a protocol more than a panic reaction. Oh my God, this is happening. Seizures ho rahe hain. It's more like, okay, cushion, assistant, garden law, whatever you do. And then like, it's become more of a protocol. And then once it's over, then you address your emotions in a different room. Like, this is how most animal workers start functioning. and efficiency comes more as well.
Yes. So,
So then-
over time, it's less. It's more. It's like muscle memory.
Right.
You just know, tuck, 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 tuck.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, all boxes checked. This is done. Remove this. Do this.
Correct.
And you kind of continue with it. The pack is also now mostly okay around Coco, because I know that has disturbed them. Tank struggles with it. Our gentle giant Raya struggles with it. But the rest of the pack has largely learned to accept her disability and
Right.
leave her be in that moment. With Tank, I think Tank came into our life right after the pandemic.
For 4 odd years now.
Yeah.
3-4 years.
So December 2020, Tank came into our life.
Correct.
And he was I think 35 days old.
Oh, yeah,
and he
yeah.
had been abandoned and stuff. And we took him in. We were fine. He's a very emotional dog. He's very, very attached. You've seen that. And he, in fact, at that point, he was so attached to Chan and me that one day we were leaving for a shoot, and in his attempt to get to us, he jumped off the first floor.
Oh yeah, I remember. And he
Roof.
broke his leg.
Yes. Touch wood. The only thing that happened was he broke his leg.
Right.
And he
could have been much
survived.
worse.
Yeah. We, of course, took him straight to the vet, and his leg was set, but he kept ripping it off. So eventually we all decided that he may have a limp, but it's okay. We will deal with that. Somewhere there, he developed a slight issue with Coco of trying to attack her.
Right.
I do feel it comes from his need to remove the weakest in the pack.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what we had kind of come down to for
Yeah.
both Raya and Tank. We'll meet them now as well.
Yeah.
That it's just that, overall pack dynamics, that most other animal oriented packs,
Yeah.
if someone's going through a chronic condition, they kind of eliminate that because that attracts other predators
Correct.
towards them, basically.
Correct.
So, but in human dynamics, it doesn't work like that
Yeah.
because we're supposed to kind of nurture and take
Correct,
care of them
correct.
through and through. But a lot of like strong-minded animals don't really understand that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
people like at least yourself and me could train that balance. But a lot of people will always struggle
Yeah,
with that. So after Coco, Friendicoes is where you got a much broader
Yes.
exposure to tons of such animals.
Yes,
So
yes.
when did you get involved?
So
like
we've been supporting Friendicoes, I think, now for 15 years
Okay.
or more. And slowly, seeing the animals there, seeing all the work they do there, we started formally working with them, taking care of their content and their social media about 3.5 years ago. And those 3.5 years have been the most amazing 3.5 years of our lives, because we have seen closely the effort and the work that goes into it.
right.
We have seen the amount of compassion, the amount of patience, and the amount of absolute unconditional love that Geeta Ma'am or Mandy have had to put into this organization.
Absolutely.
I mean, despite everything that goes on, they just keep going and
Absolutely.
going, right? And a lot of inspiration from them.
For sure.
mean, seeing them, I'd be like, okay, I will do this, right? But seeing this through them only last year, October, 23 October, we brought home Minnie. Minnie is a Shih Tzu. It seems to be either a neglect case or a cruelty case. We don't know. But she was found in a park, paralyzed waist below, with maggots having eaten her entire private parts. And she was brought to the shelter by, these rag pickers.
Correct.
A lady brought her and said, I just found her like this. But obviously, how far the wound was, it was not a new injury.
Right. Must have been dumped like maybe 5-7 days ago.
Yes, or but anyways, she came in.
Or maggots had already infected her and then they dumped her.
Exactly.
fresh.
Or maybe it was a hit and run.
Could be.
We don't know.
Could be.
Because history to kabhi nahi pata hoti. Anyway, so then once she came in, and I knew for a fact that I absolutely agree. It's not easy to look after a disabled dog, an unwell dog, or a difficult dog.
Absolutely.
But I do believe it's not impossible.
Absolutely.
As long as we are willing to train ourselves, educate ourselves, and just have a routine, it
Right.
is possible. I mean, I learned to train myself with you,
Right.
right? Before that, there was a passion for the cause, but I didn't understand that I could be trained too. And that experience has changed my dynamic with my pack. Absolutely. I mean, today you saw I was able to stop tank
Yeah.
mid attack, but that was only with what
Exactly.
you've taught me, right?
Correct, correct. And
So,
overall, like space management as well, like how when
yes,
we train, because you have multiple animals in the
yes,
same place. Now I feel that you can kind of foresee if you hear that door opening and those dogs coming out, which
yeah,
dog to
yeah,
hold,
yeah,
and probably like minimizes 2-3 incidents
yes, yes,
overall as well.
yes.
So yeah, I mean, fantastic. We'll get to kind of see a lot of
You will.
these dogs now,
Yes,
so we
yes,
can kind of see them in person as well. And as a matter of fact, I am probably nearing close to like 20 years of my association with Friendicoes,
yes,
when it was, I believe, just under Jangpura Flower.
yeah,
And Gautam Bharat sir used to be around at the time. He's
yeah,
no more. He was Geeta ma'am's elder brother.
yeah,
So he was my first, like when I was a kid, 12 or 13, he was my first like mentor in the animal space, where I
yeah,
just went to him and I said, I don't have a pet. I have a cat at home.
yeah,
I want to do so much more for animals. I have no
yeah,
clue. And I mean, because he saw a random like 12, 13-year-old come in, he started giving me tasks. He said, okay, start collecting newspapers from
yeah,
your
yeah,
neighbors, start raising funds. By the time I was like 13, 14, I remember there were two Great Danes who were inseparable. And this is like 20 years back, so
yeah,
2000s basically again. And I would walk both of them, take them to the neighboring park, clean up after them, feed a lot of dogs and stuff like that. So I mean, it's phenomenal. We're all like kind of easily over a decade
yes,
now with
yes,
our like remote association. Then I started getting more and more deeply involved when I became a professional
yeah,
behavior specialist and all of that. I did one special project with them where I was like full time involved with Battersea UK,
yeah,
had kind of like given that support for especially rehabilitating pit bulls
right,
and building like some sports activities and
yeah,
everything out there. So yeah, I mean, I know the kind of like relentless work and
yeah,
hardships that they've gone through, but it's also given us a little more insight into the dark side of the human minds
yes,
of sorts, that what are people really like, why I
absolutely,
ask you that, why do you love dogs? Because there's this entire world which fills up places like Friendicoes and now Canine Healers, our new shelter that we were working on, that it just fills up. Like that place is only filling up because people's own like greed and
yes,
ornamental requirements of brands and gadgets, and dogs are somehow fitting into people's like ornaments. Like, if there's a new painting or a new car or a new gadget, we want it.
yeah,
But if there's a new dog breed, we want it. And like, so, and those are the ones that are flooding the shelters
yes,
basically.
yes,
So that kind of, I mean, gave me a separate kind of perspective.
yeah,
And one more thing I can see from the shelters, because like, 15-20 years is a long time.
yeah,
So every 2 years, there will be a new theme of the previous trend being dumped now.
yes,
Right? So there was a trend of everyone's household having pugs.
yeah,
Then there will be a wave of Friendicoes being full of
yes,
pugs.
yes,
Next, Cats and Dogs film came in.
yeah,
So then everyone wanted Beagles or
yeah,
101
yeah,
Dalmatians, same
yeah,
story.
yeah.
First, all the homes would have the Dalmatians.
Then all the
Then all the
shelters,
then one
yes,
shelter will have all the Dalmatians
yeah,
probably.
yeah,
So we can learn a lot about human behavior patterns and
absolutely,
trends and
absolutely,
consumerism
yeah,
and things people can't really see
yeah,
basically,
yeah, yeah,
just from sitting in a shelter, honestly.
absolutely,
Right?
absolutely.
So
I mean,
so
working with Friendicoes closely, I have come to realize the sheer hate and cruelty and nastiness out there.
Absolutely.
When you talk about, do you know the extent of it? Yes, that's where I saw it.
Absolutely.
But then I also saw so much strength and so much resilience and so much courage in those animals because they were still willing to work with me.
Correct.
Right?
Absolutely.
So that was again brought me back to being in the present.
Absolutely. I mean, so like these kind of dogs have been my, like, especially the abandoned ones or the traumatized ones, or
Yes,
ones with
yes.
some kind of like
Yes.
violent inflicted past, being
Yes.
victims of a bad
Yes.
time. They are the ones who keep making me reflect and become better more
Yes.
than a LinkedIn post or an
Agreed,
Instagram meme
agreed.
or a motivational vlog or
Yes.
something like that, or even a book. Like, they give me like a perspective.
Yeah.
But those dogs would be like, like Somerset,
Yeah.
who had been with us. We recently lost him. Had been with us for so long. Two guys had randomly blinded him. He had full sight.
Yeah.
Blinded him with bleach powder. Couldn't see.
Yeah.
Despite that, I could carry him, and like he became my, like, cuddle bug and everything. Like, they kind of let go of things way faster than people
Yes,
really can.
yes.
And much bigger things than the trivial things people hold
Exactly,
on to.
exactly.
And I won't say, I mean, I'm a perpetrator of that myself. Like,
Yeah.
it could be something as small as, I mean, I'm not talking about me, but humans in general, that, oh, you said this that time, or you didn't say this that
Yes,
time.
yes.
And I have someone whose arm got sawed off, or who got
Yeah.
blinded, and they're just like, oh, so nice to see you. I love this
Yeah,
life.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
still so lucky and still
Yeah,
so grateful.
yeah.
So they definitely have been better therapists or inspirational leaders
Agreed,
and things like
agreed,
that
agreed.
to me. And I mean, same with the behavioral history. There are a lot of times I've had to rehabilitate a dog who unfortunately now has no trust, or
Right.
is reactive, or is
Right.
like has had bite incidents,
Right.
because they were treated very badly and raised very
Yeah,
badly.
yeah,
Today
yeah.
they are being painted as a monster or a demon, that, oh, ये तो
Right.
काटता है,
Right,
इसने
right.
तो हमें खून निकाल दिया.
Right.
But somehow when I see that dog, I'm able to connect why it's happening. And I don't know what happens with me, that I look at a dog and I know how long they were tied for, how much they were hit,
Right.
where they were hit, and
Right.
I have to carry all of that,
Yeah, yeah.
compassion fatigue
Yeah,
on with me,
yeah, yeah.
and then translate it to the person who's kind of taking care of the
Yeah.
animal, that they're not a monster, they're not attacking, they are feeling attacked, and they have no escape out of it,
Correct.
basically. So I mean, yeah, it's been really good learning. So in your last, like, I would say 15 years knowing Friendicoes, and another many years before that, like being around animals and stuff, what kind of changes do you think our country has seen, both in terms of accessibility for pets, parenting culture, love for animals, just in general, the overall vibe of, dog people connect with more dog people,
Yes.
not the deeper animal world, because we
Yeah.
connect over common
Yeah.
rescues
Yeah.
and institutions and working together. I'm talking about pet parents, new pet parents that come to you. Somebody in your friend circle today has a pet. 30 years back as well, somebody had a pet.
Yeah.
Like, how are things changing? Like,
So one of the biggest things that I've seen, which makes me happy but also slightly worried, is I'm seeing dogs and cats are today almost replacing babies,
nice.
right?
Which is absolutely true. Yeah.
Which
In a big
I
way,
think is a positive thing in a way. But it worries me, and you would understand this, coming from the perspective of, but we work in a shelter.
Right.
So whereas I appreciate where that sentiment is, and I really want that sentiment to mature, and I want people to also understand that whereas a puppy is great, so is an older dog.
Right.
I have a lot of hope because, if we go back to our parents' generation, they loved their dogs. Our parents loved their dogs, their friends also.
Right.
But a dog was a dog was a dog, right?
Absolutely.
Today, that's not the case. Today, even my parents' generation is not saying just a dog.
No, it's my baby.
Yes, right? It's our grandchild.
Right.
But there is this also, of course, the consumerism attached to
Of course.
this emotion, because now it is not just a dog, it's your child.
Yeah. So you'll buy a
So-
more expensive jacket than just turn your old sweater into something
Yes.
for the dog. So
That worries me from the two aspects. One, sustainability. I definitely feel it's going to add a lot of pressure.
right.
Two, it worries me because our country absolutely lacks breeding laws.
Right.
And this is, I feel, is going to really create that boom in the backyard breeders where the welfare of that animal is not a priority, right?
Right. Right.
So that worries me.
For sure.
So I'm grateful for it because that love is so nice and it's so good to see. I mean, it's amazing for my friends to call me up and say, "Hey, you've invited us for dinner. Can I bring my dog?"
Right.
I'm like, "Yeah," right? No one would, our parents' generation, no one would do that.
Yeah.
Dog थोड़ी लेके जाएंगे,
और क्या
right?
डॉग तो घर के लिए है
वो तो
basically.
security guard है यार.
Right. Except your parents, I wouldn't say anyone from that generation. I mean, mine had dogs, but again,
Yeah.
like they had it at different times and maybe didn't travel. But because you guys had to, so
Yes.
the entire family would pack together
Yes.
and go. But unke friends mein, honestly, I wouldn't think of anyone to include their dog that they're coming out of a car and their dog hops right
No.
out and everything. So it
was
wasn't there.
only mom and dad.
And now as well, like if you have like 5 families coming in,
Yeah.
all 5 would have a dog.
Yes.
Maybe one would consider getting them along
Yes,
and stuff
yes,
like that.
yes.
Even for me, because I'm so surrounded by dogs that when I leave, because like my now like job revolves
Yeah,
around it
yeah.
and everything, and I probably prefer to do trips and like
I
meeting
know,
friends
I know.
without carrying my dog, because my whole like I'm like my
Yeah.
business is an animal caretaker
Correct,
related business,
correct.
so that's different for sure. I mean, yeah, these are like, you know, super fun things that give us perspective. But unfortunately, what you're saying is that, you know, now another perspective that I feel like 2 things. First, I'll talk about the whole baby concept.
Yeah.
This term, as we have spoken off camera as well, is called anthropomorphizing.
Yeah.
That we can only, it's like turning anything into a person.
Yeah.
Whether it's a plant, people also say, oh, इनकी भी feelings होती हैं.
Yeah.
There was a different way of explaining that in biology.
Right.
They understand it not in terms of sentience, but emotions very
Yes.
differently.
Yes.
Even for dogs, like people, most humans are only limited to understanding a cat or a dog basis of what their emotions restrict them
Yes,
from.
yes.
That, oh, I left this dog for 8 hours and I came back and this dog is resentful towards me for being away for far too long.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
Yeah.
Just because your dog is squealing, meeting you, jumping at you, or because they ripped everything apart, somehow you assume that to be resentment.
Yeah.
Right? Or if your dog is, let's say, watching us across the window and we're having a good time, we would say that, oh, he's jealous of me being here, instead of just saying that, oh, he's missing, like, you know, there's you could just want to be here without holding on to jealousy, resentment, envy, greed, and all of those things. But these were complicated emotions that were created not even in the older humans, but the industrial human and onwards.
Yes.
Now we want to translate it onto a dog, basically. That, oh, something had happened in that part of their life which they hold me accountable for today and all of that. Dogs are simple beings. They shake hands by sniffing butt.
Yeah.
Very simply. Sometimes they hide something somewhere and they don't remember it. They sit on it and they get scared.
Yeah.
You understand? So like living in the moment, and I mean, I'm not saying dogs don't have long-term memory, but they value more their moments and their eidetic memories and things like that as well. So, I mean, just to make it a bit lighter, because we went on to the darker side, also like some funny incidents of like Roxy, for example, which scared someone or like, you know, give you a different perspective, because we are, I mean, she's not with us, so we won't meet her, but we'll meet Raya, who's the same size and breed, but she doesn't give across like Roxy's perspective, so she's a different character altogether.
So Roxy was an ace model.
Okay, so she's done a lot of photo
when I
shoots.
started my creative professional journey as a photographer, I worked with Rashi from Haft very closely, and Roxy used to model for those shoots.
Okay.
So as a puppy, when Roxy came, immediately she was in a shoot. So when Roxy would enter a set, and now this is the backdrop, and you've made her sit, and you've got all the right props around her, she would actually look at the camera, give you one angle straight, one this side, one that side, turn, look, one
Wow.
more flash. She would wait for the
She
flash.
knew exactly. Okay. After every flash, she
So
would know
after
to change
every
her
flash,
angles.
she would know to turn. Then she would know to turn, right?
Wow.
So she used to be
Professional
the
model.
easiest model.
Like Zion a little bit.
Yes.
Zion has that knack.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, this is a very good point about this thing of people not wanting to have children, wanting to replace, their addition to the family of like a human baby with a dog or a cat, mostly a dog. Cat, rabbit, and all of that is a lot less, mostly a dog. The two things, like you said, which are kind of good, just carbon footprint, right? It reduces carbon footprint, overpollution. Overpollution as well, but overpopulation, the population density specifically of our country. I think this culture would definitely help. But here's the thing, that they are kind of wanting to replace their baby with a pet dog. But like you said, like it's not a full commitment. Like when a kid is coming into the world, there is no chance that 2 years down the line or even 6 months down the line, because the kid wakes up and cries too much at night, that they're going to abandon the child.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. In India, we still have those archaic, like gender-based abandonment or economics-based, or we still have that imperfection-based, the special kids and the people who find any physical deformities. So abandonment is there. I'm not negating, humans are not neglected. However, it's not as frail that, let's say, parents let's say got pregnant intentionally, the whole family's on the same page, and within 3 months they abandon because the kid is too loud,
right,
or they don't know how to raise. So that full commitment is not there. We could say that everyone wants to replace their babies with the dog, but then commit to it through the entire life as well.
Absolutely.
Why are shelters facing the brunt of it?
Correct.
So one thing was that, and the other, being on like all sides of the spectrum. I grew up stray dog, like learning from strays, then a rescuer. Then I've had to learn, genetics and building good working dogs for the defense forces and everything. So I have been into the, as much as the dark side of pet parenting, that they take ornamentally, like, padosi ne husky liya, humne le liya. She's probably a byproduct of that. अरे इन सांप पे तो लैब्राडोर आ गया है, गाड़ी भी ले ली, घर भी ले लिया, लैब्राडोर तो हम भी ले लेंगे. So it was more of an economic upgrade what people are acquiring dogs for and things like that. So I've seen the dark side of pet parenting. We had a podcast with Vidhi where we talk about dark side of animal welfare, which we don't want to expand too much on that, but there is still a lot of things that animal welfare could get regulated on.
Yes.
I definitely agree with you that the breeder space is super neglected in the sense of laws, regulation, control. What I've seen is that the biggest problem is that people without any qualification or consistency or success in any walk of life, they think that the easiest job is get a male female of any species and start breeding them. Like fish, like birds. People would be like, अरे एक जोड़ा उठा लाओ, हर 6 महीने में बच्चे होंगे, बेचना, पैसे बनेंगे. So that is the supply side of things. What I personally feel, I can't say that alone causes it, because someone could be supplying endless dogs. There is a need. Someone's asking for it.
Absolutely.
Someone out there, the main thing is that the demand is still way more than the supply out there. There is an endless supply. There are puppy millers, there are backyard breeders. People have their litters at home, give it out to friends and all of that. But the main thing is that the culture of acquiring the dog is not as intricate or as detailed as even getting a new phone. I always say that, when you're researching a phone, a laptop, a car, at least 6 months get invested, asking friends, do you like this? Are you sure I should go for it? What are your reviews about it? And we'll easily permeate for about good 3 to 6 months about what inanimate object to pay money and acquire.
Correct.
But getting a dog is, like I said, सामने वाले पे अरे जल्दी जल्दी ले लो, we need to compete. सुबह फोन किया, शाम व्हाट्सएप पे फोटो आई, शाम तक घर पे डिलीवर हो चुका है. So there is someone from the demand side fueling that. Right? Like similarly, like, I mean, we like to say, for example, for the alcohol, tobacco and the gutka industry, right? That don't do the branding, burn all the factories, smash all the bottles, but who's buying it?
Exactly.
Right? Someone is out there who wants like a quick commerce sale of I want an animal in the morning. By evening it should be delivered. And next day all my friends should know how wealthy and reputed I am to have a animal, an animal by my side and stuff like that. So all in all, I wish that they consider them as their baby. And when they get hold of one, they go to hell's end for it. And like you absolutely said that, it doesn't have to be consumption of a packet of chips or a bottle of beer or an iPhone or a new car, that just because you have money you can buy any color, any size and all of that. You can go to a shelter, spend the same amount, build them a wing, bring home that animal, or spend the same amount recovering them medically and from a trainer or a rehab specialist. You still end up spending way more. Like, if you say that I don't want to spend 1 lakh on a good husky, and you go and get a free husky from a shelter, all the medical recovery, rehab, and going through the proper route of a rescuer and rehab agent, like a rehabilitation individual or a pet parent or someone, you will have to spend, like, you traveling all across. I'm sure each dog costed 20-30K each to go along. Feeding each dog a month is about 12 dogs, first of all, but feeding each dog a month is around 8 to 10K
easily,
without fail. Coco with those like chronic conditions, पता नहीं 20-25 हजार कहाँ जाते हैं. We stop counting, because it's just too challenging. So this is one side, like dogs who you may not have even chosen, they came into your life somehow or the other, right? Because we, are welcoming and we can accommodate and things like that. And then there are some who would say, oh, we don't want to have a baby. So we got a cockapoo or a Maltipoo or something like that. Or a Havashon or a Cavachon or a Cavaliers or a Pomsky or these new hybrids that are happening. And that's your new son or your daughter for 4 months. Till the time it scratched your finger or it stained your 5 lakh carpet or chewed your shoe. And now you don't have a son or daughter, like you threw it away basically. So the consumption culture, I feel statistically, for observation wise and papers and numbers and everything, the overconsumption culture contributes more to the abandonment and the shelter side. Now, me being on all spectrums, I realize a few things, like puppy millers and breeders, for example. The worst of worst breeders, I don't call them breeders, puppy millers, separate category. Puppy millers are such that, अरे shih tzu ली थी हमने breeding के लिए, कोई even I'll tell you one more possible thing that can happen, that IVDD is common in Shih Tzus and Beagles. Okay, IVDD is a nerve compression in the spine where immediately suddenly paralysis हो जाता है, you don't know, or falling from somewhere or injury or something like that. But IVDD is very common. Sometimes IVDD gets transferred through mating, through uterine like shock, because the dog has mated many times and all of that. Like an STD, it transfers, it compresses a nerve, and IVDD could be from overbreeding itself. Right? And you realize that the dog is paralyzed and maggots are eating, and then you end up throwing it. So the bad dark side of breeding definitely contributes, I would say, 1 out of 10 dogs that are there in the shelter. But most of the dumping cases are pet parents themselves coming in.
Absolutely.
Because I personally seen that certain people who see dogs like cows as a source of income, certain few people, कि दूध देती है गाय और बच्चे देती है. सेम फॉर डॉग्स. यार इसने बच्चे दिए, आगे हमने दिए किसी को, थोड़ा पैसा, वो उसे मंदिर की तरह, वो दे प्रे फॉर द डॉग, दे स्टिल टेक केयर ऑफ इट टू अ पॉइंट वेयर द डॉग्स अनवेल, दे कैन काइंड ऑफ पे फॉर इट, और समटाइम्स इवन इफ इट्स कमर्शियल they will give it to another person who might breed further or something like that. It kind of still goes into that commercial side of the industry. I have no interest in, defending any or anything, because the worst part obviously is that the shelter dumping and all of that is happening. But you and I firsthand know that if we meet people who are the front end of abandonment, where it comes from, Friendicoes, are not the ones who were cashing in from the sale.
Absolutely not.
They were the ones who acquired for the social image, basically. Right? So yeah, I mean, I wish that they actually get committed to the baby side of things. And they are the ones who keep changing flavor every 2 years. Right? Like, I know someone, I can't call them a family friend, but I unfortunately happened to know them because of chronology, that I grew up and they were around, and maybe, knew my father. So I've known them for a good time. Every year they take a new breed and they abandon it. I can't dissociate, like I have dissociated from them. But then when they call me that, oh, now we're done, we got a Saint Bernard, like when I started my career back in 2014, I was doing home visits. So like, oh, he trains, we got a new Saint Bernard, called him Gabbar, and come to our house. I went to their house, taught them a few things. About 8 odd months, he got big. 8 odd months later, they started kind of faking, like family members suddenly having allergies. Oh, they can't breathe, they can't live in the same house as this dog and stuff. So I was like, okay, first incident, how do I know what's right, what's wrong? I came, helped them rehome. Pallavi Dar ma'am, very prominent rescuer, helped me. The dog is doing very well in the hills and all of that. And I was like, okay, still left a little dark spot in mom, dad and my heart and everything. Yaar, matlab, what the hell? 6 months later, they get a Labrador Retriever, highly allergenic dog, like hair everywhere, pollen everywhere, and they are keeping that dog, some Bruno Uno, they named it. Again, he got 1-year-old hyper. One year later, they call me again, shamelessly, that, oh, we are done with this Bruno and the kids are bored. So can you find a home? And by that time, I was like, I can't keep helping you abandon dogs. You are the factory that's churning and giving out. No, we're not abandoning. We want to take care. We'll give food. That whatever nonsense. Again, I melted. I found a good home for that dog. Right? I don't necessarily know whether that dog went in a great home or he went to a place where he's being used as a stud or whatever. But मतलब उसे जिंदा रख ले, खुश रख ले. At least उस घर से तो निकल ही गया, सड़क पे नहीं घूम रहा है basically. They have a Shih Tzu again. Like, the flavors are changing, like Balenciaga and LV and Valentino and Gucci, and they're not like, I have not seen people give birth, raise a kid for 2 years, and then throw it and then give birth again. Like, it's still not that equatability in hormones, maternity or society. Also, it's just relatability, like a stuffed toy. Oh, my plant is my child, my phone is my child or something. It's not got to that extent that I will kill for it or I will die for it kind of a thing.
It's
like
still a fad.
It's a fad. Like with a baby, people, I've seen toxic parenting to a point where a kid can stab me with glass and they would say, don't say anything to my child.
Correct.
They'll fight all the generations and all the, ancestors, everyone around that, let my child be a monster. It's my son, my daughter and something. So that toxicity has come in the parenting. I mean, some pet parents are like that too. But that level of commitment is not there, because if that was there, our shelters wouldn't be flooded.
Agreed.
Right? They would take the dogs as their kids and they would keep taking.
Yes.
Right?
I think what really lacks in our society and in today's time is a lack of awareness in people, right? Very few people actually walk into a shelter to see what happens.
Right.
Because it's too intense, and it absolutely is too intense.
Correct. Ek free ka pure breed dog de do. I want a free dog, not pay for it, but want the purest breed, also, healthy puppy male from a shelter, basically.
But I also believe, Adnaan, that if people spent time at a shelter volunteering, they would think twice before abandoning.
A lot of times, like I had this program, it was a secret kind of like gray area program. I didn't publicize it, where I would convince some breeders, good breeders, to to go to Friendicoes
Yeah.
or other shelters
Yeah.
and help out.
Right.
And their practices got ethical,
Yeah.
right? And because I think I'm probably the only guy in India that I know to be able to try to get rescuers and breeders on the same template.
Right.
I'll tell you why. Because
Yeah.
breeders in different smaller towns,
Yeah.
they also are the ones who can treat an animal in an emergency, especially
Right.
because litters are
Right,
happening.
right.
They know everything from oxytocin, blood drop, heart rate dropping and all, and nobody's around them.
Right.
So if that skill set can be utilized by welfare people, basically.
Correct.
Similarly, I want to design a program, and I'm saying it now while on this podcast itself, where I become the mediator. Everyone hates me anyway, so there's no point of trying to make anyone, whether it's breeders, rescuers, anyway. I do it for the dogs. They wag their tail, they like me. I don't care anything more. But ultimately, if a breeder does want to give up, to systematically work it out like a retirement, like, okay, I don't breed this dog anymore. I've had 2-3 litters.
Right.
I'll neuter, I'll give some food, some medicine. Why don't we give a senior dog or let's say whatever, and not even drop them to a shelter? Design a program where somebody can kind of come and adopt from them.
Correct.
Similarly, I know of breeders who rescue on their own capacity, right? They also are a great network of potential adopters. Right. So that divide in itself is not able to reduce the dog population because there are tons of breeders.
Right.
Let's say a pit bull breeder, for example.
Right.
Who would get, and that pit bull breeder sells his puppy at, I'm not talking about those 3,000 rupee dog guys, and don't call them the puppy millers, nahi.
Yeah.
40,000 and above, they're selling their dog up to 5 lakhs.
Right.
Somebody calls them and says, ek free mein de do pit bull.
Yeah.
कैसा भी हो हम पाल लेंगे.
Right.
100 पड़े हैं.
Agreed.
You understand? So that network, but you know the kind of bravery it would take for somebody to stand and get pulled like a messiah from both elements, rocks thrown at and get, stabbed and hated from both sides. They might get together and make me the main nemesis, but I'm fine. Like I don't care to go through that side because I have like accepted and chewed up and digested hate and converted that into whatever well-being I can put into, the animal, so to speak. But that's again like too utopian world for me. We can go endlessly. Speaking of utopian, that's what I want to kind of wrap up our first conversation on this, and it was one of the nicest sets that I could get. So I'm definitely gonna call you up on that offer for a few more of these because it's like, been a phenomenal journey. So what is a utopian perspective? Like, what is heaven for you personally? Like a personal goal of what you see for yourself around animals? Like, okay, one little disclaimer that what you have created is heaven for all of us. We can't deny, all of us like that are here, my wife, my brother, entire team. We're like, if we dream, this is what we dream to be in.
Thank you.
But what is heaven for you? What is dream for you around animals? One. Secondly, what is your dream for the world around you for animals? If these two things, like if you could, one is a personal goal. The other is if somebody could take away what they could do to change like the Indian scene of dogs, not the world would be too big, but at least Delhi or North India or the Indian dog scene with whatever little inputs that you can give. So
I think for the outside world, I wish for a more compassionate, for a more kinder society. I wish for a space where we can all coexist.
Right.
I wish for a space where we are not fighting each other to be. I wish for stronger law implementations.
Right.
I wish for accountability. And most importantly, I wish that each and every human around takes the responsibility of just one dog.
Right.
Just one
on the
cat.
street, feeding,
That's it.
rescuing,
That's
medicating, neutering at the very
Anything.
least,
Just that tiny little bit.
Correct.
Every drop will make a difference.
Absolutely.
That's all that I wish for outside.
Right.
Personally, I mean, my parents will probably be watching this, and as will Chan. I wish this home is only and always filled with animals.
Which it
I
already
think
is.
I think
So-
12 is a less number.
Right, you're being
I-
stopped at that basically.
Yes, right
You're
now.
saying, I wish I could do 1200, and
Yes,
I always have
yes.
that inkling. I've also had to kind of cap myself
I
somewhere.
know. I wish that one thing I've learned now is my pack doesn't have to get along.
Yeah,
I'm not going to love everyone in this world.
right,
My pack doesn't have to do that. They have to be happy and content where they are.
right,
It's my job to spend time with each of them.
correct.
I have to be better at time management. I'm working on that. My pack can do what they want.
Absolutely.
The entire space and the management of this home runs around them.
Right.
Everyone has their own spaces, their own people,
Hmm.
and we respect that.
Right.
And I think till now we are surviving pretty okay. And we've been able to anticipate certain things and take care of it. But yes, I hope for at least 1,200 dogs, as many donkeys, cows, cats, goats, chickens, ducks, pigs, whatever you can think of. That is my personal wish. My life is truly today, I find meaning in my life because of
Because
my
of
time
animals
with my
around.
animals. Yes. And that's it. If I can travel with them,
Right.
if I can be here with them, if I can, whatever it is, as long as they're there, I'm fine.
Only thing is that you can't take 1200 together
है ना, थोड़ा
unless you have a
मुश्किल होगा.
caravan or a locomotive on it. So yeah.
Maybe people want to buy a private jet.
Right.
I want to buy a private train.
Train. So you can fit all of them and just
Can you
go
imagine
across
just
the whole
one
country.
train? Like
And they
an
all
entire-
have their little beds
Yes.
and they're chilling.
Like there
They
was
get
Noah's
cuisine of every
Ark.
place.
There'll be Meher's train.
I think this can be arranged. Let's
na?
start petitioning for it and let me
Yes.
start like finding out opportunities where we can like open discussions.
Exactly. It'll be so much fun.
Yeah, it could be a rescue train as well before it happens because you don't
Exactly.
have 1200 just yet.
Yeah.
We'll fill up 1200 dogs for
Yeah,
adoption
yeah.
and go through all
All
the lines.
over.
People can see them, adopt them, and take
Yes.
them home. So it'll be super fun.
And yes, my dream can come true. I am happy being the driver of that train.
So fantastic. It's been absolutely magical. I mean, I definitely, only for us to kind of restrict this one so that we're able to
Yes.
edit it in time and bring
Yes.
it to the people. We'll always definitely keep coming back every now and then so we can expand on this. This was barely just scraping the surface because there were so many stories that you had told me that
Yes.
were popping up that
Yeah.
I wanted to bring out. But I also had my inputs
I
to
know.
give. So so
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time and all of the inputs. I hope all the people that are watching can have
Yes.
some takeaways and they can definitely try to also follow you and connect with you and on a
Anytime.
personal level as well. Take insights and inspiration. I kind of forgot I like to do that. It's not something that
Yeah.
I'm supposed to, but I kind of forgot personal things. I mean, we'll have to do a sequel for sure,
Of course.
but at least definitely one mention to your current projects, your and Chant's current projects that are out there, not the
Yeah,
hobbies that are
yeah.
not out there, but at least Paprika Tokri, they have their online presence
Yeah.
as well as Idis Collective because I'll only talk about both of them a bit and then you can mention and then we can start meeting the dogs. But personally, I've had a lot of my content and my work showcased and developed and delivered by Idis Collective in so many formats. While you were doing the Doggy Dabba shoot, I came in as an actor as well. There were a lot of Friendicoes awareness content. I was happy to do it. So we've done so much work together. Then you guys gave some great canine school videos where you were also attending the course.
Yes.
So I know for a fact that if we want specialists around animals,
Yes.
to feature them, whether it's welfare, whether it's a brand, whether it's someone's own company and stuff, you guys would be the perfect production studio to go ahead with. But a little about Paprika Tokri, we see some of this stuff here. I definitely want you to tell us how and why this as we close.
So Paprika Tokri started as a YouTube channel for recipes.
Okay.
Because food is my love language for humans and animals both. From there, it became a pop-up, a Sunday pop-up.
Okay.
A winters only Sunday pop-up, which did really well. And I'm talking 2017, okay? We're just kind of getting into things and figuring stuff out. And it was an invite only. And we would have, 50 people is what we could have. We would be sold out.
Okay.
Then things got more complicated because get permissions, you are residential, blah, blah, blah.
Correct.
It was too complicated for my arty brain. So I was like,
to get
let
into
it
compliance,
go.
Right.
Then came my passion for candles.
Okay.
Which, as my parents will tell you, that as a little girl, I would take all the candles they had in their home, melt them, put them into little silver foil molds I would make.
And design them yourself.
And run around their parties selling them for 5 rupees.
Oh, wow. Crazy.
I think my parents had very supportive friends.
Yeah.
So I did make some
And they
money.
paid. They bought them.
They did. And then from there to one day realizing that at that point when I started, it was only paraffin candles in India. And I wanted a cleaner alternative because of this AQI and all of that, right?
Correct.
So I was like, Diwali needs to be cleaner. So I did research and discovered soy. Then I started working with soy.
Okay.
Then we launched our soy candles, our beeswax candles.
Nice.
And then I realized that at the end of it, it started with food.
Yeah.
Right? And why food? Because food nourishes our soul.
Exactly.
It's our safe space.
Absolutely.
It is love. It is nurturing. It is the basic instinct of what love and nurturing is, right? So now we are getting ready to also launch a supper club, which we have been talking about for a long time.
Absolutely.
But that will also be a paprika.
Very, very excited for that. I want to be the first and the most regular guest for that.
Thank you.
Because, the way you and a lot of people around me, your mom, my mom, mom-in-law, my wife, the way you guys feed is basically like transferring one's own like thoughts, emotions and soul onto the plate.
Yes.
And then whoever's eating it, they kind of like imbibe that basically.
Yes.
I don't have the same kind of relation with food, maybe because of my excessive privilege around being the best chefs that I'll ruin like boiling water basically. I can't cook to save my life. Probably because I'm too pampered with all of the love showered with me with the greatest recipes.
Right.
But at some point I'll learn. But yeah, phenomenal. Like we're looking forward to having, the supper club come in and everything. And I'm definitely looking forward to doing some cool stuff with the candles for the dogs. We were talking about it as well. So thanks for giving.
And maybe the supper club can be another space where people can hang out with their dogs.
Exactly. Bring their dogs in, talk about them. I'd be happy to lead that as conversations around pet behavior and things like that. Like, the main reason we're having these conversations are that people start getting more and more hesitant to open up that they're not able to handle their dog. Or they get extreme, or they mask it. Either they mask it by hiding the problem, or they mask it by extreme ego and defensiveness that don't tell me how to raise my dog. Like, I'm only trying to help.
Yes.
If you can take your dog in the car and travel with them, you'll have a better life. It's not about me. I'm not someone to counsel or condescend. I just want you guys to be happy. Right? And sometimes that backfires that I'm trying to like mansplain or tutor them. So now I don't do it unless someone's professionally like asked me or amongst friends who I know will listen basically. So definitely these conversations people can secretly listen to and be like, okay, I can relate. चलो इनसे DM पे या कुछ करके बात कर सकते हैं basically.
I think the common goal is creating safer spaces for people to just talk.
Absolutely.
That's
because if I can openly say on camera that I still feel that there's so much for me to learn to train a dog that I probably don't know 2% out there. Like, I have been around people who are like fanatics of showcasing their training for championships and trophies and all of that. They only paint pictures of how sharp your performance is and your points and all of that. For me, and that's why you and I relate so much, for me it's harmony that if the dog is happy, anxiety free, stress free, people around me are safe, not injured. And I don't have to hold them at all times. Like there's basic training, like, off-leash control with them. That's as much as I would kind of want to limit with. So on that note, thank you so much once again for this wonderful talk. And look forward to many more of these together. Hopefully having like uncle and Auntie and Chan on one of these
Yes.
episodes one by one, so we can have more. And at some point when we get the time, now it's still a little like cold, but hopefully out in the open we could do like bigger round tables and things like that. So it'll be super fun.
Looking forward to that.
So great. Let's go around and meet everyone at the
Come on,
farm.
let's
and
go.
Cool.
Okay.
So that wraps up our episode for today. Tell us in the comments how you like the conversations, what parts you agree and disagree with. Also, let us know who would you like as the next guest for our podcast. Please subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss out on any videos. Make sure you like and share this with your friends so that it increases our algorithm and helps us in producing content more and more. Hope you keep watching. See you again.